What is one of life's biggest traps that people fall into? Not putting in consistent work to expand your comfort zone. For certain personality types, it is easy not to put in this effort. Over the years, living a stress-free life, as you'll call it, just becomes a central part of your personality and ethos. There are a few problems with this that I'm aware of. The first, and this is the big one, without effort to expand it, your comfort zone will naturally shrink over time. It's imperceptible on a day-to-day basis, but over years, it will become very clear in retrospect. Things you were able to do at one point are now just too uncomfortable, so you stop doing them. You're trying to avoid stress, you tell yourself, but stress for you has just turned into a pleasant euphemism for anything that makes you moderately uncomfortable. The second, anything worth a damn in this life is going to require you having the cojones to do things that make you uncomfortable. Approaching a person you're interested in to strike up a conversation. Having gone out to build meaningful hobbies by trying new things over the years before this point, so you actually have something to talk about. Navigating the complexities of a long-term relationship and not running away at the first sign of trouble. Having the courage to search for a new job if you're miserable in your current one, even though the job search and interview process are demeaning and soul-destroying. Having the courage to stand up and say something at your parents' funeral. Just one person, so fuck do I know, but given the cliched ability to go back and do things different from an earlier point in your life, this is the one thing I would change. Building a consistent habit of doing things that make you uncomfortable. The fear will never go away, I imagine, but it will get easier and easier to take that first step. Usually that's all it takes. Every guy I know. Herder, happy wife, happy life. That's great, unless your wife happens to be a walking psychopath. Cannot be happy. My experience, I spend every waking moment with her. Never worked a lot, never had debt, never had consuming man hobbies or bro friends. I was her whole world. She was mine. I was at her side for every doctor appointment, every prenatal moment, the birth, every feeding and diaper change and bath. I did all the night feedings and diaper changes so she could rest. I did all the dishes and vacuuming religiously. She was a stay-at-home mom and I was basically her six-figure income manslave. Yes, honey. Sorry, honey. I'll do that better, honey. You're right. It's my fault, honey. It wasn't. Yes, honey, our daughter got sick because I took her outside on a perfect 72-degree day without a jacket. Had nothing to do with 30 of your mother's friends touching her and holding her and constantly touching her face and lips all weekend. Me, in a calm voice. Hun, you've been calling me and the kids F-word names for 48 hours now. Can you please stop? She's 3 years old and you think it's okay to call her a piece of shit baby? Are you for real? Her. I can call her whatever I want. Fucking retard daughter. What did you say? How dare you usurp my authority? Stomp, 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 stomp. I'm calling the police. Divorce. Me takes kids to a different room to get away from her and locks door to be safe. Her. Slams on door like horror movie. Why is this door locked? Oh, you're going to molest them. I'm telling the police you molested our daughters. Divorce the bitch with a restraining order. Picture this. Your manager pulls you aside and asks you to do a little extra work. You want to move up in the company. You like your job. You say yes. Your manager says, "Thank you so much for doing this. I see great things in your future. Keep up the good work. We're watching and we don't know what we'd do without you." Next week, your manager pulls you aside and asks you to do a little extra work. You want to move up in the company. You like your job. You say yes. Your manager says, "Oh, thank you so much for doing this. I see great things in your future. Keep up the good work. We're watching and we don't know what we'd do without you." Next week, your manager pulls you aside and asks you to do even more extra work. You want to move up in the company. You like your job. You say yes. Your manager says, "Oh, thank you so much for doing this. I see great things in your future. Keep up the good work. We're watching and we don't know what we do without you." You keep doing all this extra work and taking on all these extra responsibilities that they'd normally have a supervisor or manager do, but you're doing all this extra work at your base pay, which to them is for free. Please realize they have no intention of promoting you if you're doing a ton of extra work for them and they aren't compensating you for it. College. I personally believe that it's a scam that rich scumbags manage to convince the rest of us peons that going into generations of debt to get a largely pointless degree is absolutely necessary to be successful, even though most people who get a degree, that has nothing to do with their degree. For example, my sister spent 6 years majoring in theater and minoring in psychology, and yet she's over $100K in debt. Back when the loan forgiveness was happening, she applied for it and the school just went, "Fuck you, pay up anyways." And she's working a dead-end job that barely pays minimum wage. Meanwhile, the highest level of education I got was my high school diploma as well as my CDL, and I'm making over twice what my sister makes. I'm currently transitioning from a part-time to a full-time position, so I'm going to be making even more here soon. With all my medical and retirement already covered because I made the smart decision to get a job with my city. On top of that, I also decided that I wasn't going to bother with college. So my total debt is currently at a grand total of fuck all. TLDR, fuck college. Relationship inertia. Relationship inertia, especially in your 20s, can extend relationships that should only have lasted months and stretch them into years. However, it's not necessarily for bad reasons. Many of us understand that all relationships have ups and downs. Moreover, we have a value system of commitment to making our relationship work. That's great when a relationship has the proper foundation to be great, so long as the two people are willing to do the work. Problem is that when you're younger and inexperienced, you don't know how to tell good versus bad foundations from one another. I'm not talking about substantial red flags like abuse, infidelity, overall mistrust, or fundamentally different value systems. I'm talking about a relationship that is functionally fine, but isn't the right fit for many more minor reasons. Unfortunately, many of us stay in those "this is okay" relationships because we don't know better, or we feel like it will get better only to realize in hindsight, this wasn't a great fit and never could be. The American Dream. Hundreds of thousands of people move to America every year and hope that they may be able to start a life and end up becoming a huge success. In reality, these people end up getting trapped into a system of government that has been bought by corporations who want to profit off of your hardship. You work for a corporation that doesn't pay a livable wage. You cannot open a business because the same corporations lobbied the government and banks to prevent you from becoming their competition. You buy food that is grown with poison, you pay for healthcare that doesn't completely cover your illness, you go into debt and are penalized by the IRS, you go to a prison where they make profit off of your forced labor. The education system is subpar for kids, and tuition is a down payment for a house, so a university that spends a ridiculous amount of money for a losing football team. Internal thought. Modern life for Americans, at least, is about maximizing efficiency and never taking a day off or time to rest. Sure, this is fine if you're working towards something meaningful that enriches your life and others around you, but the issue is, it's not for other people, it's not for progressiveness, it's for ourselves. Hate to use the S word, but society really does lead us into this pipeline of achieving vague concepts like money or success. During all this time, life is passing by right in front of people's eyes. You don't have to be a hippie or anprim to go on a spiritual journey, but people need to get out of their own heads, self-actualize, and realize they exist in this world, because a lot of people only experience life those 2 weeks out of the year on their annual vacation, and it's heartbreaking. By far the biggest, living in a complacent existence because it is rooted in a fear with something based around your self-esteem. Change. Open-mindedness and forcing actions, even minor such as taking a trip to the library, cooking a meal you haven't tried, or major like applying to a new job or trying a new hobby involving other new people, are the method to staying youthful and, most importantly, soulful. Complacency eventually hits a floor that isn't pleasant to yourself or others around you because you don't have much new insight, merit, or bright energy to offer. May sound general, but ask yourself, when was the last time you tried something for the first time? A food, a place, a book, a trip? Less complacency equals more soul. Not setting standards with people because they can't tell the difference between judgment and discernment, respect and compassion. You can justify a lot of bad stuff from an underlying position of insecurity, but the people we allow into our lives reflect who we are and what we think we deserve. A lack of accountability to our own growth narrative will undermine us in everything. And there are legitimate reasons and circumstances that you can't do much about is the issue. I'd say not accepting that you need help to understand what is going on with your brain, health, and behavior is the biggest, most impactful trap. Especially not taking support because you have slipped from victim into abuser via weaponized defense and fear, unable to even allow for being wrong because you're pressuring it all. These all fall in the same vein, but being afraid of failure, not willing to practice, being unrealistic with goals. How this translates into real life? Yes, you are bad at math. To get better, you just need to practice. No, you probably won't get a Fields Medal. Yes, it is still worth doing. Yes, you are bad at sports. To get better, you just need to practice. No, you probably won't go to the Olympics. Yes, it is still worth doing. Yes, your piano is god-awful. To get better, you just need to practice. No, you probably won't become a concert pianist. Yes, it is still worth doing. Everything that you ever wanted to get good at means accepting that you suck, practicing, and eventually getting better. I'll do it later. No, you won't. If you let little chores pile up, then you just see a big clutter and get tired. What you need to get in the habit of doing is, if you see something you can do quickly, do it right then. 3 dishes in the sink? Wash them. A couple loose items on the floor? Put them away. See some dirt on the kitchen floor? Sweep it real quick. There will still be big chores you have to do on scheduled times, like laundry, bathroom cleaning, etc., but by taking care of the little things right when you see them, it makes the cleaning days that much less daunting. One of life's biggest traps that people fall into is the keeping up with the Joneses mentality. We see what others have and feel like we need to have it too, even if it's not something that will truly make us happy. It's important to remember that everyone's path in life is different, and comparing yourself to others will only lead to feelings of inadequacy and a lack of fulfillment. Instead of trying to be like everyone else, embrace your own unique path and focus on what truly makes you happy. After all, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. One of the biggest traps in life is not picking yourself up after a failure, letting yourself go and sinking to the bottom. Depression will sink in and you'll start to lose everything. Extremely heartbreaking when you see someone you love go through this. They will stop caring and become suicidal because they feel there is nothing left to live for, when in reality, they still are alive, and that's all that matters. The world isn't better with less people. It's better with people who adjust and live for the better. Thinking, I have plenty of time left. But in the worst case, you die tomorrow, no matter how old. It can be a car crash at 16 years old, a bursting aneurysm at 30, or getting shot at 55. Or, not less scary, you grow old and then are too old to do the stuff you told yourself one day. Travel the world when you retire, catch a common illness like heart disease, and nope, 1,000 things you can't do or enjoy. Being too philosophical. If you keep being like, what is the point of life? Why are we doing this? Etc., it can be really depressing overall. Yeah, life sucks sometimes. And then what? Well, then nothing changes, so don't think about it too much. What I mean is getting over all of that is an important starting point. What's done is done. You may have made some mistakes, yeah, and then what? Bro, just live your present life. Marriage. Why? You can love and stand by the human you choose without the government involved. You can still have and own things together. You can still have a lawyer and protect yourself. Do not tether. I truly believe that once you get married, it becomes an entirely different obligation. Having a bond without the marriage really means you're choosing to be there. You aren't obligated. Love has never needed contracts. Money needs contracts. Property needs contracts, not your fucking relationship. Social media. People spend hours of their lives wasted on social media, especially websites like TikTok. People think watching a few seconds video won't take long until they realize they have watched hundreds of videos and it's hours later. Social media ruins people's lives. Please, if you read this, take at least one day a week off of any social media. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, even YouTube and Reddit. Just do anything else than browsing social media. Waiting until later to make that call to a friend, send that card, text, or email to tell the people you love them that you love them. Then backing that up with real time spent with them, preferably in person if possible. Lost an amazing dear friend to suicide in October, and only 2 weeks before that, we were talking about visiting, but I didn't get on it right away, and now it'll never happen. Debt, marriage, more debt, kids, more debt, buying a house for the wife and kids, buying a house debt, repairs for house debt, second car debt, credit card debt, IRS taxes, tax debt. It just goes on. No, it doesn't get any better. Oops, almost forgot. Divorce debt. That's after you find out you've gotten an STD from former wife fooling around while you're working overtime to pay for all this debt. Ridiculous. Fake friends. In second grade, I was a goody two-shoes and the teacher's pet, so people in school would use me to get friends by telling them, I'm friends with Lexi. And so those people would get more friends because I could become friends with someone that had no friends at all or have very little amount of them, and a few days later, I see them in a friend group. Thinking it's too late to try something new or to start a career. My grandfather was so old when he got to college, his nickname was Grandpa. He ended up becoming a very successful physician. He had so much money when he passed that a good portion of my family was in a major dispute over the inheritance. He always told me, it's never too late. And he proved that. Fear of missing out. FOMO. Fear of not measuring up. Bringing on self-decay due to comparing oneself to others. Believing that what people show you of themselves is true. It's rarely ever even close. Thinking your education was complete in high school or college. Failing to understand that your darkest secret, the one that holds you hostage with shame, is the same thing everyone else struggles with. That which is most personal is most universal. Telling themselves they can be happy without caring about money at all. I'm 39 and I'm still hung up on this. I outright hate the invention of money. If I didn't have to worry about it, I would volunteer or something anyway. What people fall into, and I did for a long time, was the belief that any career would make them a happy person, regardless of the pay. Not ending relationships that need to end. It's okay to say goodbye. It's okay to close the book when you reach the last page. It's okay to let go of people who die, and it's okay to phase someone out of your life if they aren't good for it. Don't live your life on the tangential chance of something coming along that could make that relationship good. That they can't start over. Lots of people feel like if they do something, choose a career path, end up hating it, that they can't go back to school, that they can't quit and try something new, that they have to finish what they started. None of that is true. It's okay to try something, hate it, and quit. It's okay to try something new. Not being ready. I know so many people that didn't leave their terrible job, apply for a new one, try out a dating app, start a new hobby, etc., etc. All because they didn't think they were ready yet. In my experience, nobody is ever ready. There's just people who go for it and those that don't. Be someone who goes for it. You'll be happy you did. Organized religion. Just take a fucking melon baller to the part of your brain that you use for critical thought, and while you're at it, might as well throw in 10% of your income into tithes so that your church can pad its tax-free trillions while encouraging you to live with less and not pursue opulence and wealth. Recognizing the difference between, this is a tough situation I need to work hard to overcome, and this is a crappy situation I need to get out of as soon as possible. Some situations like crappy jobs and relationships are simply impossible to fix and will just make you miserable and cost you years of your life. My grandfather only ever gave me one piece of advice, God rest his soul. There are 3 things in life that can ruin you. 1. Drugs. Don't do drugs. 2. Don't gamble. And 3. A good woman is very important. A bad one can ruin your life forever. All I can say is, too true. Hard drugs. Not even once isn't a joke. The biggest regret of my life is not considering the repercussions of my willingness to engage in the use of almost any drug. Be careful with yourself, love yourself and your future enough to consider the risks associated with the things you do before you do them. Pipe dreams. You can find a job where you're perfectly happy and still enjoy your hobbies, instead of forcing your hobbies to be your source of food, shelter, and warmth. I may have wanted to be a writer, but I'm perfectly happy programming and enjoying my hobbies on my own time. The trap of having to complete things based on societal pressure, like marriage, buying a house, having kids, etc., all by a certain time. It's all bullshit, and I wish people would realize they can do things in their own time, or not at all, and that's perfectly okay. The most common one that I've heard is people who got married and started a family at a young age. Sounds like so many people buy into that lifestyle and then regret it later because they didn't get to do or experience more things while they were young. My 6-year-old asked me if we could go to outer space. I told her, yeah, but you'll have to work really, really, really hard to get there. Had to give the old you can be anything you want to be 1-2 punch. Waiting until a situation's perfect or until they feel completely confident to go after what they want. Neither of those are likely to happen. Do your best with the hand you are dealt. Time is the one resource you will never have more of. Capitalism. Any system that relies on keeping the majority of the population desperately balancing on the precarious edge of destitution so that they will be willing to subject themselves to exploitation to be able to survive is nothing but a massively propagandized trap. Having kids because society said they should. Nothing against kids, parents, etc., but the pressure to have kids is immense from family and or religion in most areas and cultures. Most often, couples have to explain why they chose not to or couldn't have. Being overly optimistic. There were so many people in my psychology class that thought they'd live to be 100 and never get divorced. I enjoy life, but life isn't easy. It's often messy and disappointing. And you also need to be prepared for that. Putting things off. We could do it more as kids because someone was there to pick up the slack or stay on top of you to get something done. But as an adult, the consequences of waiting on stuff slaps you hard. Thinking too much of what others think of them or how they are perceived. I think this goes along with self-esteem, but I started feeling a lot better about myself when I let go of the fear of judgment. That when one door closes, another opens. I hate that statement so much. Or God has a plan. People get so obsessed with these statements that they don't put forth effort to fix their situation because God will handle it.